Ladies and gentlemen, today is March 27th, 2014, and this is the KNKL show where we learn to be better artists. I'm your host, Keenan Lafferty, and today we're going to be jumping into a piece that I did for my little brother, Deebs. He has recently been playing a game. What game, you may ask? None other than Princess Legends. Rayman Legends. And you can play as princesses too, right? This is one of the characters. This is SELENA. This is one of his favorite characters. So I took it upon myself to draw a picture for him, and I actually printed it out on a 12 by 18. And he loved it. And we're going to be going into my process and just kind of deconstructing a couple of the layers and kind of digging beneath what makes this sort of style. And you can see it in high res for yourself at DeviantArt. If you're watching this on YouTube, just click the link down below. Now, I think it's time for an overdue stroll down the lovely lane. That is the Facebook, the awesome Facebook submissions by you guys. I just wanted to say thank you to everyone who has been submitting, even though I've taken a slight break. I do appreciate you guys learning, watching the videos, leaving your awesome comments, and more so, leaving your awesome art. So please continue to do so. If you haven't joined us yet, if you have not come out of your shell, just click the link down below to go to the Facebook. And yes, you can like it and submit your own art, anything that you have learned from the show. And thank you to everyone who showed up to our last World of Warcraft pool party. Wool pool party. I don't know what I was trying to do. World of Warcraft wool party. Okay, so with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and take a look. Let's take a look at what we're working with today here. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is I want to show you guys a couple things. This is the actual finished piece here, okay? And we're going to go through and we're going to make a couple notes, and then we're going to go ahead and start deconstructing it piece by piece, okay? So the first thing I want you guys to pay attention to right up here is that this character is quite pale, right? She's very, very pale. But I want you to notice how once you get close to like the cheeks as well as like the elbows, this is a very kind of like anime thing to do where you like put the pigment on the elbow and then put a little shine there. I like to do it subtly. Like I really don't like it when it's like this, where you just like, it's like pink. It's like pigment for the sake of pigment being there, you know, just because you want to put a shine on it. Like try not to do this because it looks really, I don't know, it looks like it's made out of bubble gum or something. I don't know. I just personally don't like that. So try to avoid doing that. But this is kind of like the biggest thing that I wanted to talk about today. It's just like creating pigment and like adding reds to different parts of your color to create life, to make it feel like it's living, even though there's like this line is still existing here, right? Like this comic book line is still existing, but the colors within it, there's like this subtle hue shift from like this purple over here, and then it's hue shifting to this red. And the reason why that is happening is because of something called subsurface scattering. The light is passing through, right? This can be seen if you like stick a flashlight in your mouth and your cheeks glow red. The reason why that's happening is the light is passing through the blood vessels and creating this awesome reddish glow. And that's also a similar thing that's happening within the skin, but just on a very, very subtle level. And if you take a look, I mean, you can really see it most clearly in your hands, like on your knuckles and stuff. Like depending on, like especially if it's cold, you'll see that your knuckles and all the joints of your fingers, they turn very red because the blood is rushing to them to try to keep them warm so they don't freeze. If they get too cold, they will turn black, and that's really bad. So, yeah, but then another thing I want you guys to pay attention to, and this is another thing that I'll be talking about today, is the texturizing. Like the texture that I'm creating, right, in here. Like you can see, and it's all in my transitions. All in the transitions. And you might be asking me, well, how do you do that? Do you go in there and you just like take this thing right there and you just kind of like put little dots throughout your entire piece, right, to create that texture? That might have been the way that I did it probably about a couple of years ago. And then after going crazy and being thrown into the loony bin for a little while, I had a chance to meditate upon my wrongdoings. And then very quickly I realized a quicker way to do it. And that is to use the brushes to your advantage. Use the brushes to your advantage. Because if you notice, this chalk brush that I like to use, and you can get all my brushes again by clicking the link down below in the YouTube description. Ha! You can do this, and then you instantly get all those cool transitions, right? Just letting the brush and letting the program do the work. We'll go into that in just a moment. But yeah, see all this little texturizing stuff happening throughout here. Makes me oh so happy. And then, yeah, just like little things in here, talking about metals, talk a little bit about transitions. I mean, it's really cool. Like, I'm starting to notice that I really, really enjoy creating like comic book type characters, but then adding just a little bit of this rendered quality to the metals. And I want to talk to you guys about how I go about doing that. How do I make something look like skin as opposed to, and then this metal helmet sitting on top of her head? How do I do that? And that's what I'm going to explain to you today. All right, well, I think that's enough blabbing over the finished picture. Let's go ahead and begin deconstructing it. Let's start with the beginning. Let's start with the very beginning. So let's get rid of this, and let's pull open a folder called Old. Old, you can see it right there. Old. Why do I call it old? Well, that's just what I named the folder. I put all the old sketches in. So the very beginning of this drawing began with a simple sketch, right? It began with many simple sketches. And that was me basically trying to figure out what I was going to do, okay? So sometimes I really like to start with the face, even though I tell you guys, like, I've counseled you guys so many times to not start with drawing a head, right? Don't draw a head, right? And he's like got chameleon eyes there. And then draw a body onto it. Unless, like, I don't know, sometimes I feel like I can see the composition. In terms of this, like, because I was thinking the composition was going to be like this, right? So you can do something like this and then like have the shoulder there and then have it go down. And you can kind of get away with that because you don't have to worry about the body and creating balance and making sure the person actually looks like they're balancing on the ground because you can't see it, right? Out of sight, out of mind. So in this case, I think if you really like drawing faces and you want to work it into like a more compositional piece, I think that's fine to do because it works for me, okay? Because the master does it. And the master is never wrong, right? The master teaches. No, but just, I didn't end up using this one. Maybe that's the reason, because I didn't do it right. Anyway, okay, so I started with this one, okay? Then I was just trying a couple other ones. And a friend of mine named Colton, who's also into digital art, he kind of put things pretty bluntly to me when he said, man, your drawings always start out so like, and I don't mean any offense by this, but they start out like really crappy. And I was like, yeah, man, that's how you got to be willing to sketch stuff down like this. Because what I'm doing is I'm not going in there and being like, okay, I'm going to draw this guy. So, okay, here's his chin. And then, oh no, I messed it up. And then you got to go back and, okay, let's try that again. Okay, there. And then, okay, now he's got some hair. Oh, no, that hair doesn't work. You know, don't do this. Don't lay down lines like perfectly trying to draw the character right the first time. Okay, I see so many people do this. So many people do this, and I think it's a really common thing to fall into when you're beginning to learn art. You feel like everything that goes down has to be perfect, and I really think digital art, again, it opens up an entirely new route because you can be so messy with a pencil, right? But then you got to go in and you got to erase it and you get all these shavings everywhere. You got to like dust them off and then they're all over your floor, right? Your entire like seat base is just covered in eraser shavings. But with digital art, you can literally erase it and it's like it never happened. It's like it never happened, like this face, which needs to go away. But what I'm doing here, guys, and what I want you to pay attention to, and what I want you guys to do for yourselves, is try this out. The next time you go to make a picture, right? When you're drawing a pose, I know I used to do it this way. Here's another way that I believe doesn't work. I really don't think this works. Is drawing the stick figure with the joints, right? Oh man, I hate this. I hate this. I used to do this so many times, right? Because I was like, oh, these drawing books say draw a stick figure. Oh, that makes so much sense. Then I can just lay down the joints and everything, right? And then you're like, oh, but that looks like crap. That just looks like a crappy stick man, right? And then you don't have any like sense of like muscle or volume. It's like, okay, how do I draw the muscle onto here? Let's give him like some pecs and like a six-pack. I really, really hate this. I really hate this. And I think any art book with this in it needs to be burned and destroyed and forgotten about for the rest of time. Rather, the way that I encourage you guys to do this is draw with shapes. Draw with shapes and create flow, okay? So say, now you can draw the head, right? But then I almost want you to like think of the arms as like noodles, right? So draw them like that. It's almost like clay. I think of it as clay now. So you can draw like this, right? Now there's volume. Now there's volume. Now you're building a man, right? It's like a mannequin, right? And you're thinking with shapes and you're thinking with volume all of a sudden. And this stuff I really like. See, this guy's happy, right? Because give him some hair or a mohawk. He's happy because he's no longer a stick man. He's got volume. And you can actually see a little bit what's going on, even though all you did was just give him some noodle arms. And that's basically what I'm doing here. Look, it's like, is that a head? Like, kind of. Like, what is this over here? There's like 2 heads or something. I don't know. But really, it's just flow. Okay? Flow, 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 flow. Right? And I want you guys to get good at doing that. Because this is a major hallmark in all of my art. And I really, really try to continue improving this. So, moving on. Speaking of flow, look at this. Here's another grand example. Another grand example. See, here's the head right here. And then I think I started with that line. I just went like that. I was like, ooh, I like that. I like that a lot. But then what can I do with that other leg? Ooh, maybe I'll kind of bring it up like that. Draw this arm back like that. And do one of these. And, oh yeah, she's got hair, so we can also strengthen that line with this type of thing. Oh, but where's her big mace axe thing going to be? Maybe there? Actually, that looks really cool. See, and this is really what it's all about. Is I'm just paying attention to relationships. It's like, yeah, this shape right here, this is a mace, right? This is the spiky mace thing that she has, right? And yet, all I did was just draw that thing. But it's the relationship. It's the relationship and how it flows with the rest of the drawing that I'm really liking, okay? And I don't recommend drawing in dark colors like this. I'm just doing this because it's the notes, okay? When I sketch, I really like to use light colors. Light colors. Because it's easier on the eyes. I don't know, I like using light colors. Makes me oh so happy. Okay? Alright, so moving on to the next one. Okay, this is where I started to get somewhere. This is where I started to get somewhere. I want you guys to pay attention. Pay attention as to why this worked. Okay, so what I got going for me right here is there is a clean line of action from the head down, right? It's going right back like that. And then you got this thing coming up like this, like she's getting ready to do this swing at you, right? And then we got the cool mace in the background, got all that good stuff. And again, I'm drawing with shapes, drawing with shapes. Here's the leg, here's the foot, right? I just make it a little, I don't know, like an elephant stump thing, right? It's like I don't have to worry about, oh yeah, let's draw a boot. Let's draw a boot. No, forget about that. Don't worry about that. Just draw the shape of a boot. I really think the clay analogy is the best. Just imagine you're working with clay. And you'd start with something. Like if you were going to make a boot, you would start with a cylinder like that, right? And don't get so caught up in like subdividing it and everything. I've seen so many people. Like there's other art books that do something like that too. Like it gets like too geometric and I don't know. I don't know. It might work for you. If it works for you, then you go ahead and have at it. But I saw that and I was like, oh, I have to draw this head and then subdivide it perfectly, and then I have to draw this torso in space, right? This 3D torso. It's like, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. I'm just going to work with noodle arms. Noodle arms are the way to go. Noodle arms are the way to be. All right. Moving on. But I really want to echo those words. Like, just pay attention to how, quote-unquote, crappy these drawings are. Just pay attention to how simple they are. There's nothing special about them. It's literally just me kind of like messing around, trying to find that something that works, and then eventually I get it. I get the flow, and then I just build everything off of it. And I don't expect it to happen right the first time or the second time or even the third time. Most of the time, however, though, I will say this. Most of the time, whenever I'm sketching something, the third time around, it usually does work. I don't know how it happens. I mean, third time's the charm, whatever hokey saying you want to throw in there. It just seems like the third time that I do something, when I sketch it, it just seems to have something special about it. The diamond in the rough has appeared. And now, that is what we are going to capitalize on right here. Before I do this, okay, back to this. I've always wanted to do that. I've always wanted to become all ghosty. That's drunk mode. Drunk mode. Okay, so now we're starting to get somewhere. So we've got our flow happening, right? Similar flow from the head going down. It's just kind of like lunging this way, right? But she's kind of looking back at us. And I don't know exactly why she would be doing that. But when in doubt, I always say, if it looks cool, roll with it. If it looks cool, just roll with it. And I did try a couple things. I tried like moving the eyes around, but we'll get to that in a second. Okay. But, okay, so that leg is coming right out like this. We've got the boot there. And we've got the torso and the chest coming up like that. Arm like that. I really like doing this thing. Ever since I've just working on Emma, I really like doing this thing with arms. And I know this is a complete crazy tangent, but I'm just gonna tell you guys. Okay, so the way that I like to think about arms now is like when I draw the shoulder, like say I'm basically drawing that same arm. So the shoulder kind of comes up to a point like this, right? And then you have the bicep. And then what I really like to do is I like to do this little thing. Like I draw this little bump that goes up like that, and this goes to like the hand, right? I really like doing that. It's kind of a stylized thing. And I usually put these two fingers together too. But I really like doing that. It's like one of the funnest things to do. So if you want to draw arms like that, then go ahead and have fun with it. I just feel like it just really like breaks the, you know, instead of like doing it like this, it's like, oh, here's an arm, right? Oh yeah, it's just like one clean line. And then you got the hand with too many fingers. You got the hand with too many fingers. Obviously, this is better, okay? So keep that in mind. All right, so we're moving on to the next part. On to the next one. So I'm starting to, again, just basically sketch in things. Look at how sketchy this is. It's like the head is still here, but I'm kind of like laying on top of it the mask and like this thing, right? And I'm starting to kind of add in the mace back here, right? But I'm like, it's not. In fact, I was playing around with this. Originally, this was set to be a portrait type picture. But then eventually I decided to twist it to landscape. That way I could bring this shape out so I could have just more breathing room, because I think her mace, like Selena's mace, is so cool. It is literally like, it's the most iconic thing about her. So I wanted to make sure that I preserved that. Okay? So I twisted the canvas to landscape, gave that mace some more breathing room, right? As you can see here. And now I'm beginning to go through and just refine things. I'm beginning to refine things, okay? So I'm basically going from this to this, okay? And I want to show you guys exactly how I do that, okay? So, yeah, I mean, you're looking at that face, you're like, okay, how did you go from that to that? I will go ahead and I'll demonstrate that to you right now. Real time, real time. So basically, the way that I go about doing it is I'm actually working just straight with the chalk brush as my paint and my eraser, okay? And I'm beginning to kind of just like add things in like this, okay? So I'm beginning to kind of like sculpt things into place, okay? Oop. Like this. Let's get her eye in the proper place. So I'm just trying to figure out how things are going to work. And I'm basically just adding and subtracting using only the paintbrush and the eraser. Do not paint white. Do not grab white and paint white over top of it. And this is going to come into play a little bit later with my process. So we go ahead and do stuff like this. Let's go ahead and kind of clean this up. But this is what I call line sculpting. This is very much line sculpting. I'm just adding lines in, and I'm kind of like taking away the old stuff that we don't need. Originally I had that mouth. I think I changed it to something more like this. All right. And I'm just paying very close attention to like expression and just like emotion, because I think those things are really, really important. Really, really important in your drawings. So I'm going to go ahead and just like erase a little bit of this, and then I'm very lightly going to go back in here like this. See, that's how I tone it. I don't paint gray. Do not paint gray. Take the brush, make it big, keep the same color, just press lightly. Okay? And I like it like that. So that's a basic rundown of how I go about doing that. Let's kind of do that very slowly, just adding, subtracting, cleaning up lines. And eventually what you get to is this. A little bit different, a little bit more pretty. But, however, I do like this one too. I like the expression in that. But I was just messing around with those things. You can see same thing going on. I'm adding shapes in. Adding shapes in. If I were to start refining this glove here, I basically add this shape, add that there, and I just like erase this. Just erase it. Then on top of that sits our skull thingy. Sometimes I like to do this thing where I'll just kind of like tone it. Again, pressing lightly. You just tone it. Super easy. I just like to do that. I don't know. It just helps me remember I want this to be really shiny and metallic. And it just kind of makes me feel excited. Makes me excited. It allows me to see the finished product a little bit earlier than, I don't know. Maybe I'm just weird. But anyway, I hope this is giving you guys some good insight into how I go about doing this. So again, it's refining, adding things, cleaning up edges. Don't worry about making them too clean. That comes into play once you're all done. Okay, that comes into play a little bit later. Just adding, subtracting, cleaning up edges, getting what you want out of the drawing. Okay, so after I go about doing that, and the time frame that it takes me to do this, I would say the refinement process is really, I feel like it's the longest part. I can spend easily a few hours on it, if not a whole day on refining, depending on the complexity of the piece. I think I spend probably about 3 to 4 hours refining just the line work. Because a lot of my stuff, a lot of my work in my drawings nowadays is, I feel like it's like 90% setup. 90% setup, and then the last 10% is just dropping in the color, doing a little bit of overpainting and kind of cleaning everything up. But this is really what you want. You want to get clean line art, clean line art. So the next thing I want to talk to you guys about is, now that we've got some fairly clean line art, now we're going to begin masking it. Okay? So what we need to do is, my roommates just got home, so if you hear him yelling, that's what's going on. Anyway, so the outside edges, what we're going to be doing here is we're going through and we're taking the ink brush, which is basically a full opaque, so you don't have to press hard, save your wrist, save your life. And you're just going to go around and trim the edges. The most thing about it is like you're just cutting it out. And what this is going to allow you to do is you're going to character mask it. Basically, you're going to, this saves you from having to manually mask it. And what I mean by that is, a lot of people, when they got their line art done, they'll come in here like this and be like, all right, it's time to mask, right? And they'll, okay, let me tell you the worst part about it, is they pick a brush that you have to press really hard, right? You gotta press really hard and just go around the entire piece, right? Or maybe some people, they take it a step further, and they use an ink brush, full opaque, and then they'll just go around and manually mask everything like this. And this, I feel, is not good. It's not good. You can like submask manually. In fact, you have to when you do this. But the character mask itself, you can save a lot of time by doing it like this. Okay. So this is the finished SELENA, and we're going to start breaking it down. Okay. We're going to start breaking this down, and let's go ahead and take everything away, and I'll show you exactly what I did, piece by piece. All right. So here is our character mask right here. Here's our character mask right here, and I'm going to go ahead and darken all the lines. I'm going to darken them all to black, just so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. All right. So we've got our mask here. And the way that I do this, I'll actually show you how I do it. See how all the edges are all cleaned up. All the edges are good and clean. Okay? Let's just make this mask again. I'm going to show you how to do it. Okay? Make a new layer, right, behind your lines. And basically all you do is you select everything around your character. Select everything. Just like that. And then what you're going to do is hit Shift-Control-I. And that will implode the selection. Okay? And then you can fill it with whatever color you choose. Mine's this pink, purplish pink. The shortcut is Shift F5. I also have mine set to F4. So you can go ahead and do that. Then once you have your character mask, see how much time that saved? See how much time that saved? Now you don't have to worry about going in there, like manually masking this entire thing. Now what you're going to want to do is you're going to begin doing your submasks. And these you do have to do manually, unfortunately. But What's really, really cool about this is that you set all of your layers that you create over top of this, they are going to be set as clipping masks. And the way that you can do that is, see these already, they have that little arrow pointing down. That means they're set to clipping mask mode. And the way that you can do that with a regular layer is you just create a new layer and then you go to enable clipping mask. Or wait, let's see, I'll do an example with this one. Okay, so let's put the helmet on. Okay, so without the clipping mask, see how it goes outside of all the lines? Clipping mask basically makes it so that way the original character mask is the stencil and it will not go outside of it. Okay, so the way that you create it is create clipping mask, just like that. Right click it, or you can hold Alt and then just click between them. And everything, basically all these layers are going right back to this one. Right back to this one. So if I take this one off, so you can put some layers on, take it off, they all go away. Alrighty then. So yeah, I really like doing that. You can see how I just took like a big brush and just went and just like colored this entire thing, like masked that entire thing. And you got the background wing, hair, skin. And it's really cool because as you're masking these things, you don't have to worry about going outside of the lines anymore. I mean, on the outermost edges. I mean, within the character, you'll have to be careful, but that is okay. All right, so let's go ahead and get these masks back on there. Then let's talk about coloring the lines. Coloring the lines. And why I like to do that. Why I like to color the lines. Then we'll go a little bit into the texturizing and finishing touches. So first, let's talk about coloring the lines. Now, remember back when I was talking to you about only using the brush and the eraser? The reason why I wanted you to do that was because you're going to begin coloring the lines. So the way that you do this is first and foremost, you get your line layer. This is what our drawing looks like without lines. Put that on, lock the pixels. This magical button right here says, okay, wherever lines exist, that is what I will paint. That is only what I will paint. And then I'll go ahead and like fill it with like, let's do like a dark red. Usually I like to start with like a dark red. So dark red just seems to feel good around like everything. All right. So now what I'm going to want you to do is pick a soft brush, because I feel like this works really well. And what you're going to begin doing is picking colors, like basically this is the way that I do it. Rule of thumb, select that color, and whatever color the line is, it's just a darker version of it. So just darken it, saturate it a little bit. And then you're going to begin coloring your lines, and you're going to get something like this. It's a very subtle change, but the difference in the final drawing is enormous. Enormous. Okay, so do it. And it will make your color, it'll just make your drawings like come to life. I mean, I really feel like it just makes them feel a lot more alive, especially in the skin. Especially in the skin. You're gonna want to do like a very, very kind of like a dark red for the skin. Now watch just the difference right here. See how it looks all kind of dead? Kind of just like nasty looking? Watch what happens when we start coloring it red in these areas. See how it just starts to take on a little bit more of a life within itself. I really like, that's probably my favorite thing about line coloring, is it just gives life to the skin. And then you're going to want to go back in, and obviously you want the eyebrows to stay dark and all that stuff, so you can go back, just kind of clean those things up. You can take a hard edge brush and kind of do your small adjustments. That's basically how I begin prepping my line art to disappear. Disappear. Okay, so let's go back to the beginning. Okay, back to the beginning. Let's go ahead and talk about overpainting. This will be one of the last things that I do, and I'll also talk about the texturizing. So, basically, you want to know how to get from this to this. Okay, and I really want you guys, more than anything, to just pay attention to this, how subtle this is. How subtle the changes were from this to this, and yet how much of a difference it makes in the final drawing. It just feels so much more, I don't know, like finished and like awesome. And I've done it with just a couple simple tricks. And really, and I'm just going to go right into it. Let's just get right into it. So, the first thing that I do, and it's just kind of like a trial run, right? Basically what you're going to begin doing is you're going to start like taking all these like kind of messy lines that kind of are remaining from what you were working with. Take your chalk brush out. Use a chalk for both of these. And you got your new layer. This is over top of everything. And I like to call it the OP layer. Overpaint layer. Or overpowered layer, whatever suits your needs. Then what I'm going to begin doing is blending. I'm just blending. Okay, so I'm taking this, I'm just blending these lines out. Cleaning it up ever so slowly, but with great purpose and dignity. I don't know why I said that. It just felt right. So, yeah, but now I'm just like saying whatever happens now, whatever I say goes. Whatever I say goes. I'm just paying attention to, oh, I like this slightly darker value here. This is something that I kept in the final piece. I like the slightly darker value here. I'm just going to kind of blend that out and kind of have it go right to the nose like that. Okay? This is also where I added in a little bit more pigment. So watch. I will just do this, kind of saturate it a little bit, push it towards red, and there you have your pigment. Add a little bit of that to the cheeks, and then again, the way that I like to blend is alt-clicking. Alt-click that color, blend a little. Alt-click that color, blend a little. That's basically what I'm doing. That's my blend technique. My thumb is on the Alt key, the left Alt key. That's what I'm doing. So I add pigment there. Add not too much pigment here. Just enough. Just a little. Don't overdo it, and then put a little shine on there. Ah! Shine on! Alright, so now I'm feeling pretty funny right now. So I also changed up the eyes a little bit. Something that I think is really cool to do with the eyes is just add a little bit of that iris in there. Very small change, but I think a lot of the characters' expression is in the eyes. I find myself wanting to say, shine on! Shine on! That's my thing now. So yes, shine on and do your overpaints. Okay? And now you can see very quickly, take it away. Ah! 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 My turtle face approves. Oh! Ooh! Alright. So, the last thing that I think we need to talk about before we finish up, as I promised, the texture. The texture. How do you get that texture? Once again, I will say, as you are, this is more so done in like when you're behind the lines stage, because it's really easy to like go in here. Let me just open this up again. Let's go back to, say, the boots. Let me give you a good example with our boots. I think it's on suit. Yeah. Okay, so let's say we got these big old boots here. And let's just color them all the same color. Actually, look, let me do a better example. Maybe here. Yeah, okay, this will work better. Because what I did here is I actually shaded some of that value from the actual lines is in there. That's what's creating that texture. But when you don't have any texture and you want to put it in, here's what you do. Use that chalk brush. Use it and use it well. Okay, make it nice and big. And you just kind of do one of those, right? And boom, see all that little texture just like makes its way into there. And it's super, super awesome. Love it. That's like one of my favorite things about the chalk brush. It's the mixture of this texturized, like the texture of the chalk brush, and then kind of like the refinement of the sharp edges that I think really adds a lot of flavor and style to my work and other people that use a similar type of style. So, with that, I think we're going to call it good, people. So I'd like to say thank you once again for joining me on YouTube for episode 177 of the KNKL Show. You guys take care of yourselves. Until next time, take care.